Okay. Okay, thank you and hello everyone. Thank you for joining our online session as part of the AfA CONNECT event series. We are here for a panel discussion led by the Social Media Animal Cruelty Coalition, or SMACC, part of Asia for Animals. SMACC is working hard to tackle the growing problem of online animal cruelty content. Your presence is important as we discuss and address this issue together. This is our 21-member organization that share the same goal to see animal cruelty content prohibited on social media. Next, please. Okay, today our panel will share with you why it is crucial that all animal advocacy and protection organizations are aware of this issue, how it impacts your wider work for animals, and why we all need to work together to bring change. Sorry, Nicola, you share the wrong window. Okay.
Apologies, one second.
Sorry, everyone. Yeah, it happens. Please wait a second. Anyone ready to share the screen?
Sorry, I am on it. Sorry, I am disappeared now.
No worries. Please wait for a moment. Okay, and we are on it again. We are on the third slide, Nicola. Yeah. Okay, so in this session, we will begin with a 40-minute presentation, followed by 30 minutes for discussion and questions. As this is a complex issue, we'll be just covering the fundamentals today. And if you want to further engagement, you want to collaborate, SMACC is open to discussion with any organization. So please feel free to reach out. Additionally, please note that there will be a short survey at the end of this session. Yeah, this is the survey. So please scan the barcode or type the link to access the survey. It will only take 2 minutes and you are welcome to fill it out during our ongoing discussion. Next, please. So a quick heads up. So because we are talking about animal cruelty, so there will be some tough topics with possibly disturbing image. So be mindful as we go through them. So before we start, let me introduce myself. My name is Amanda Faradiva, and I will be your moderator for today. I am a coordinator, SMACC, which is Nicola, our lead coordinator, and Winaya, our other SMACC coordinator. We also have with us today representative from 2 SMACC member organizations, which is Boopal, joins us from ACRES in Singapore with over 15 years of experience in wildlife rescues and animal protection issues. She is ACRES co-CEO, overseeing the education, fundraising, animal crime investigation, and the wildlife management. ACRES works closely with online platforms such as TikTok, Meta, and on the removal of content related to illegal wildlife trade and cruelty to animals. They've also published a report online on illegal wildlife trade, highlighting concern on platforms like Telegrams in Singapore. And then the next one is Connie Chiang. She is the co-founder and executive director from Taiwan SPCA. The organization was founded in 2009 and works to help animals through cruelty investigation, animal welfare education, research, lobbying, and animal rehoming. Taiwan SPCA joined SMACC after receiving several reports of online cruelty from members of the public in Taiwan and realizing its scope as a global issue and the difficulties towards tackling the problem. So please feel free to ask any question that's come to mind and type them in the chat box. We will have the discussion after the session. So for the first session, I would like to pass the floor to Winaya.
Hi, everyone. So nice to have y'all here. So I will be talking you through what online animal cruelty is. Before we go any further, I would like to start the session off with a question. So have you ever come across animal cruelty content on social media? Please give your answer in the chat box. Just a short answer, yes or no would do. Of course, there's gonna be a lot of people here who have noticed online animal cruelty. And that's great. That means that you are aware of what online animal cruelty is. So I can see that the majority of our attendees have witnessed animal cruelty content. Identifying what is considered to be cruelty might be difficult for each one of us. There are cruelty contents that are very much obvious, but there are certain things that might look harmless. It's not rare to have people who are working for animal protection organizations still feeling confused in identifying such contents. Even I sometimes feel the challenge, especially when it comes to content that is not publicly acknowledged as cruelty, but it actually can be detrimental to the animals. So let's continue with our discussion. What exactly is animal cruelty? So SMACC defines cruelty as a range of human behaviors performed intentionally or unintentionally that cause animals harm or suffering, which may be immediate or long-term, physical or psychological. And this definition stresses out that suffering, despite being intentionally or unintentionally done, can have an impact in different moments in time. It does not always occur immediately. It can also be long-term impact at worst. And it can also be physical, not just psychological, or both at the same time. And all of these possibilities are just equally damaging. So what is animal cruelty content? How is this similar or different to the animal cruelty that is not posted online? Animal cruelty content is anything that has been posted on a social media platform by an individual, organization, or business that depicts animal cruelty or suffering for any reason, apart from campaigning, journalistic, or educational purposes. So animal cruelty content has no discernible meaningful purpose, and we consider it to be a barbaric form of entertainment. And as you can see here, there is a wide range of species that are featured in online cruelty content. And you can see wild animals here in captive or free-ranging settings. And all of these here are considered to be animal cruelty content. These pictures show a moment in time where animals are involved in interactions that can lead to detrimental impact. For some of us, they all seem to be obvious cruelty contents, but this is not the case in general. The lion cub pet in a car, the slow lorry's pets with diapers, they do not show any form of direct cruelty that general viewers can see. Much of this content is extremely popular online, and even animal lovers and well-meaning people engage and share this type of content. As to them, this is not cruelty, it's rather the opposite. And the collage is just a very small portion of what we have seen. It's impossible to put a final figure on the amount of content out there, but what we do know is that contents like these have a worldwide reach and are viewed billions of times by social media users. And as you may be aware, SMACC annually produces Spotlight Report, a thorough analysis of the data gathered by the SMACC's volunteers in order to gain helpful insight on what is going on about animal cruelty in social media platforms. The production and the result of these reports has also helped SMACC in identifying different types of themes that are frequently seen in the social media platforms. So here are some examples of just some of the types of cruelty content that we have on social media. First, we have wild animals as pets. the inappropriate keeping and or handling of wild animals as pets, which is detrimental to their welfare. The inherent cruelty is usually not intentional or recognized. So why is this problematic? First, several studies concluded that wild animals as pets content invites users to engage with similar action, and that is to keep wildlife as pets. And comments signifying the user's intention to keep wildlife as pets and any type of positive reaction towards the content were used as an indicator of this indirect invitation. Wildlife is undomesticated species and it's not made or have evolved to adapt to domestic life. And what the public may fail to understand is the fact that a process of domestication takes years and it does not directly happen instantly to a wild animal that is kept as pet. It endangers not only the animal, but also the owner. So contents like this may not be a type of obvious cruelty content for users, but it definitely can lead to more horrifying and obvious cruelty that we will cover here. Primates as pets and extreme abuse. Primates used as entertainers, often treated like human children, and trained to behave in certain ways, sometimes includes extreme abuse and torture. A review about human-animal relationship and animal hoarding had indicated that humans are more inclined to have positive affection, attachment, and caregiving behaviors to animals that are phylogenetically closer to them. Primates are in fact animals that fit into the closely related to humans description. The similarity to us humans has become a persona that intrigues people to have empathy, but at the same time, it is the same persona that attracts people to have them as pets. This is just one of many possible reasons that are studied of why primates as pets is a popular and a global trend, which has leads to abuse in many forms just for the sake of entertainment. Fake rescue, animals put into distressing situations for the sake of a fake rescue narrative. This might be one of the most challenging type of cruelty to spot by general audience, as the term rescue has a positive connotation. We currently do not have as many information as the other type of contents, but we have learned quite a lot of indicators that signals how the rescues are staged from multiple similar contents of rescue with similar animals and similar looking setting, and an unlikely scenario of predator animal attacking offsprings to accounts using rescuer as a label but have put fake address in the information. Next, please. Teasing as torture, withholding food, attention deprivation, scaring with mask or other animals, spraying with water or other liquids, restrictive clothing, cocaine, etc. So this might be one of the type of cruelty content that social media users actually like seeing due to animals' response towards the teasing. It may seem harmless, but this can go out of hand in a matter of seconds. Teasing as torture certainly has a very broad spectrum, which makes it harder to have a unified agreement on where the line starts and where it ends. What we can definitely agree on is teasing content is uploaded for entertainment, which maybe many of us, including myself, unfortunately, are guilty of enjoying some of the contents that are less obvious. Next, please. Psychological abuse, intentional psychological torture, or torment. It often comes with inflicted physical harm. It may be experienced by animals without any physical trigger as well. But just like as humans, animals can experience trauma. And oftentimes people tend to undermine the cognitive abilities of animals and being receptive to bad incidents when in fact these bad incidents might have a prolonged impact to them. It's something that can be seen by observing, but not all humans are receptive to the animal's body language when they are not comfortable. And the way to identify this abuse may be subjective to everyone, and the capacity of how animals perceive bad experience may vary for each individual and species. But despite how varying these factors are, the smallest portion of abuse is still considered to be an abuse. Next, please. So online animal cruelty truly is a global problem. In response to this, we need a global solution that unites as many people, organizations, and of course, platforms as possible to play their parts. Combating animal cruelty has never been easy, and the exposure of the online world does not make it any easier. SMACC understand that this is a long fight of changing people's action, behavior, intention, and overall mindset. And of course, we need everyone to be hand in hand to achieve this. So it is within our greatest hope that when you walk away today from this session, you will see a way that your organization can be a part of this. I will pass this to Connie.
Okay, thank you, Winaya. So I'm sure a lot of you may be thinking, well, what are these social media platforms doing about this problem? Well, that is a good question. Next slide. Well, to be frank, just not enough. It's very frustrating how social media companies continue to lag far behind animal welfare science when it comes to appropriately regulating animal cruelty content on their platforms. Although many of the biggest platforms do have some policies related to harm against animals, however, they largely focus only on direct physical abuse, which also has to be clearly visible in the video. So this means that an animal showing injuries or fear responses or in poor conditions may not always fall into the physical harm category. And in addition, the policies tend to be very limited in their scope and do not clearly define what is meant by animal cruelty. So other crucial considerations such as long-term psychological harm or unintentional abuses would not be covered. And when we do reach out to the companies, oftentimes the response is confusing and sometimes even contradictory to their own policies. And reporting options for some platforms don't even allow you to choose animal cruelty as an option. So all in all, we can say that enforcement is quite poor at the moment. Next, to give some examples, SMACC has documented multiple accounts and groups on Facebook sharing monkey torture content. Now, despite this content showing some of the very most extreme forms of violence, abuse, and killing of macaques, they have not been removed by Meta. Meta owns Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. So they did not remove the content until after direct escalation from SMACC, right, which is not acceptable at all. Next slide. So some platforms, including YouTube and Meta, took a positive step to introduce specific policies prohibiting fake animal rescue content. And implementation of these policies appears to have reduced certain forms of fake animal rescue on the platforms, which usually depict animals being attacked by predator species. But SMACC has found that content creators have now developed new forms of fake rescue content in order to evade detection and moderation. So now a lot of the content are showing animals who apparently need medical treatment, but the harm was probably caused by these creators themselves. So this is a perfect example of why policies need to be updated regularly and need to be continuously refined. Next slide. And furthermore, some platforms have implemented restrictions on the sale of endangered species or the sale of live animals, for example, on Facebook. Although it's not the main focus for SMACC, there is the obvious connection and crossover between wildlife trade, animal welfare, and the presence of these animals on social media, either for sale or displayed as pets. And it is, again, frustrating to see that such policies do not protect these endangered species in other ways. So to give an example, Facebook doesn't allow the sale of endangered long-tailed macaques. But then on the other hand, the depiction of long-tailed macaques as pets or dressed in human clothing is not prohibited, even when the animals have obviously been sold as pets, and in some cases, probably even via Facebook itself or WhatsApp, which is also owned by Meta. So in summary, if the content does not show the actual sale of the animals, it would not be covered by Meta's wildlife trade policies. Next slide. Okay, so what is even more upsetting is that many of the creators who post these regular animal cruelty content are actually being paid money by some of the platforms. Now, this is done through advertising on the platforms where ads are placed over popular content, popular videos, earning money for both the creator and the platforms. There is a list of criteria for being eligible for advertising, but sadly, we see animal cruelty content clearly still getting through. A report that was done by SMACC coalition member Lady Freethinker estimated that for 2,000 videos showing animal abuse could earn up to $15 million from monetization for the content creators who post them, and up to $12 million in advertising revenue for YouTube. So another key question is, well, what about legislation? Okay, so next slide. Well, there are some challenges. One of the biggest challenges facing social media regulation is jurisdiction. So for example, some forms of animal exploitation would be perhaps legal in one country, but not another, meaning it can be tricky in trying to prohibit such content entirely. There is some scope for dealing with individual cases of cruelty if the country or city can be identified in the video, but this too can be extremely difficult. To our knowledge, many social media platforms do not currently share information on animal cruelty crimes with law enforcement, such as the IP addresses of the users. This is something SMACC intends to challenge, as we do believe third-party platforms have the responsibility to aid law enforcement agencies when a crime has been committed against animals. Now, some countries such as the UK, France, New Zealand are now seeking to regulate social media on a national level in order to protect users from harmful content. These regulations are aimed at protecting children and vulnerable groups from damaging content. And us animal advocates have been lobbying for animal cruelty content to be included as well. This is very early days, but it is a real opportunity for animal NGOs. We believe that online harm should be recognized in new or updated national animal welfare legislation as well. And over to you, Nicola.
Thank you very much, Connie. Sorry, I'm doing screen sharing and trying to unmute myself at the same time. Okay, so what is being done about the problem? And more specifically, what is SMACC doing about this? So SMACC works with our 21 member organisations on the following key areas. As you've heard, we conduct extensive research into what the... Sorry, I'm being asked to start my video. Is that... Do I need to do that, or can I continue? Okay, I'm going to carry on. We carry out extensive research, and we have produced a series of reports to be able to highlight the problem of social media animal cruelty content, which we can then use in our conversations with the platforms and as an advocacy tool. We also are focusing on so-called grey areas. So some of those things that Winaya mentioned earlier that might be types of cruelty that are difficult for members of the public to spot. And also we, of course, then take all of this information and raise awareness with the public, because they are the ones that are on social media, that are seeing this, that are coming across this unknowingly perhaps, and have the chance to take some action at the time. And so we do also provide guidance on what it is that they can do when they are encountering cruelty content. Let's take a look at these a bit more closely. So from our reports from members and in our own experience, we quickly learned how crucial public awareness was to be able to bring an end to this content. And whilst we haven't carried out dedicated research on this, we do find that a lot of the comments and engagements on social media content can come from animal lovers and those people that are trying to raise awareness. Sometimes we find that most of the comments on a post might well be from animal advocates. But unfortunately, there is a huge risk that these people are inadvertently increasing the reach of this content. And this is because when we look at how social media works, it is a numbers game. So it's the most popular content is what the platform will prioritize and therefore boost. So the more engagement it gets, the more people it will reach and continues to grow. That's how content goes viral. Sadly, the algorithms don't differentiate between negative and positive engagement on content. So if you are putting a thumbs down face or an emoji, sorry, or an angry face emoji, it isn't being seen differently. So it's just all contributing to that overall engagement, which could then boost the post. If there is monetization on that content, as Connie discussed, then that could even potentially mean more money is being generated for the animal abusers, which is the complete opposite of what we want, of course. So I have a question for you all right now. Have you ever reported animal cruelty content to a platform? I'm not actually able to see the chat, so if someone could tell me what is being said, that would be really great. Someone from the team, maybe verbally, but what I'm expecting is that plenty of you probably have reported content because you are from animal advocacy organisations. And what I also want to know is, if you have reported content to the platforms, have you had the results you want? Has the content been removed? Again, I can't see the chat, so if someone could just indicate to me what kind of response we're getting, please.
Yes, Nicola, so they said yes. Not everyone have acted on reporting.
Okay. Okay, so I mean, the best tool that the public have right now is the reporting function. And we do hear from many members of the public that they do report content, just like yourselves. And we also hear that they don't get the results they want. So they report the content, it might not be removed, or they might even get a message from the platform saying that the content does not violate the guidelines of the platform. And so understandably, they're really frustrated and they have lost faith in the reporting. And we can completely understand that, because we know that the reporting functions on platforms are far from perfect. If you can find them, as Connie mentioned, sometimes they're difficult to find and don't have an appropriate category. But we also know that it is still crucially important that you do report content to the platforms. That's from our conversations with the platforms, because they do see that what kinds of content is being reported, and we need to show to them that animal cruelty content is a big issue, that it is something that the public care about. And we also want to be able to flag all the different kinds of content out there that we deem as cruelty content. We found from our own research that the data that we've collected and reported to the platforms, that around 47% of the content was eventually removed. However, it can sometimes take days, weeks, or even months to see that removed, and multiple reports. So again, it's far from perfect, but right now it is really, really important. It really aids us in our work with the platforms. And we do have some content being removed, which is obviously what we're trying to do. So much of SMACC's public education focuses on our 5 steps to stop animal cruelty. The first one is to be aware, and obviously many of you here, most of you here are animal advocates, so you will have an idea. But we have produced lots of public awareness materials, including our Ask Yourself series, which gives people prompts around really stepping back and thinking about what are they seeing? Is this good for the animal? Should this content be online? Then, of course, as we've said, do not watch the content, do not engage, because all of this can contribute to that monetization, to the popularity and the reach of the content. If possible, don't watch the content intentionally. Going along with this, do not watch, do not engage in the content, whether it's a negative or a positive comment. As we've said, do not do this. Do not share, even if it's to raise awareness on the type of content that's out there. What you should be doing is reporting the content. So that's directly to the platforms, as I've mentioned. And we have produced a series of videos guiding on how to report on 5 big platforms, which you can use yourself, and you can also share with your supporters and followers of your organization. So alongside the public awareness and research, our other side to our approach is working directly with the social media platforms. We've chosen to positively engage with them because we want to encourage them and assist them to make changes to protect animals. They have the ultimate power and position to do so, have so much change and impact, because if they change their policies, if they stopped allowing certain types of content and effectively enforced their policies, then it could be removed very, very quickly. So that's why we want to engage with them, and we want to make it positive. It doesn't mean that we wouldn't call them out, or that we won't stand up against them or speak publicly about their failings, but we want to try and have a conversation with them. The other thing that we do, of course, is knowledge and resource sharing, bringing together organisations that want to tackle this problem. And more recently, we've successfully been managing a subgroup of organisations who are wanting to focus on legislation, as has been mentioned in the talk, in particular in the UK Parliament, where they have now included animal cruelty content under the UK Online Safety Act, which is designed to protect social media users from being exposed to harmful content. So looking further into our discussion with platforms, we're currently working with Meta, YouTube and TikTok, and discussions have generally focused on why action is needed, why this is an important issue that they need to give their time to. We've, of course, talked around the need for them to improve their policies to capture all forms of cruelty content. We want them to, again, use their incredible platform to educate users, because, again, they've got they've got the audience, they've got the means of putting out these messages. So to educate users about animal cruelty online. And of course, they have these tools, machine learning, AI, automation, and really they should be using them to capture and prevent this content from being found on their platforms. We've also focused on those priority forms of cruelty, such as primates as pets, which has been a big feature for us because from our data, around 80% of our content features primates. We've also, of course, stressed the importance of psychological suffering, and that's suffering that might not be direct and physical and obvious in the content. A really important part of our conversation is making sure that there is still room for legitimate content. So that's shared by our organisations, journalism, campaigning, so that, of course, we can continue to raise awareness about what is happening to animals. And an area we really want to explore is about the platforms sharing information with law enforcement, as Connie mentioned, so that we can actually help organisations who are tackling perpetrators on the ground. And results have varied, dependent on the platform and their willingness to engage. Bringing about change, as you will all know from your own work, in large companies is a long process. It takes a lot of negotiation, and it is still very, very early days in this work to tackle cruelty content online. But we have seen some general improvements in the community guidelines for all of the platforms that we've working with. And specifically in 2023, with working with us, TikTok launched its new Animal Welfare Centre on its website, which is, I'd say, one of a kind, really, in terms of it goes through what their position is, what animal abuse is, and it links to organisations and resource, including SMACC, about animal cruelty issues, which is a great platform for our organisations to have. As mentioned already, some of the platforms like Meta did also bring in a policy around fake rescue content, but we are finding that we need to keep pushing them because enforcement clearly seems to be a problem. And of course, with any project, it's really important that we're measuring results and impact. It can be really difficult because the scope of the content, we're talking about social media, we're talking about millions, billions of pieces of content. It's a real challenge, but we are, I believe, we hold one of the most comprehensive databases of this type of content, and we do this in-depth research to be able to try and find those changes and to back up the work that we're doing for animals. I think the overall challenge really is, message is that despite all the challenges, we're still going to do it. We have to do it because it's really important for animals. Thank you. Over to you, Ambu.
Thank you, Nicola. I think one of the first questions we would have now is that how does this impact your organization when, particularly when you likely may not have this as a main campaign or a focus area for your work? So the dominance of social media in communication these days and its global use really means that it has become a very easily accessible tool to promote and coordinate acts of animal cruelty. So when we take a closer look at these acts of cruelty that's featured in this content, this is where we see the real relevance to all of us who are advocating for animals, the relevance to all of our organizations. So SMACC has developed a list of themes to try and capture all forms of cruelty content that we see on social media, and this is available on SMACC's website. So we find content which appears to be very innocent forms of cruelty, for example, someone teasing a cat with a snake toy, all the way to planned and deliberate violent torture of animals. All this content is generated and created for profit. So here in this slide, we have highlighted some cruelty issue themes that many of the organizations who are here today, we are all working hard to prevent. So from bestiality to abuse and eating of live animals and wild animals in tourism and trade, content on primates, hunting, and use of endangered species. So all this content is promoting in one way or the other acts of cruelty to animals that every one of us are spending our time and resources trying to end. So in the next slide, we'll see 5 key reasons why tackling animal cruelty content is crucial to all our advocacy work. Particularly if you work on any of the issues that were listed earlier, or even if you don't, it really applies to all of the animal protection work that we do. So number 1 is animals are suffering. Like it was shared before, it could be physical or it could be indirect and psychological suffering to the animals. And number 2 is by really showing the public that it is okay for the animals to be treated in these cruel ways. Animal cruelty is actually normalized And content creators are really undermining all the educational work and efforts that every one of us are doing to preserve the rights and welfare for these animals. In fact, this could even encourage other content creators to commit similar abuses. And number 3 is social media platforms have really become spaces where animal cruelty can be organized, whether it's locally, regionally, or globally. So often these groups could be operating secretly, making it very difficult for organizations like us to track and investigate. And the 4th reason is that content creators are making money from animal cruelty, which really feeds into animal abuse industries, whether it's pet trade, illegal wildlife trade, or even wildlife tourism. This is done by monetization of content through advertisements on social media platforms, even worse, by asking for donations. And the last reason is that our own supporters and followers of organizations like us could be unknowingly making the situation worse by engaging with such content. So we really need to make sure that our supporters and followers and the members of public are made aware. So, and in the next slide, you will see that some content creators even imitate your organizations in a bid to legitimize their content, and in some cases, making money by asking for donations. So there's a lot of content that shows fake rescue of animals. It seems to be very popular and catches out many animal lovers who think that it is genuine. My family members have forwarded me fake rescue videos saying that this is very similar to the work that you do, which is really not true. And sometimes the videos showcase injured, ill, or even dying animals, and they are put in that state by the creator in order to film themselves rescuing the animal. Some claim to be animal sanctuaries or rescue centers where they're exploiting animals just to create more regular content so they could ask for donations from people who are really well-meaning and genuinely concerned about animals. So our question is, what can my organization do? What can you do? So SMACC is not trying to sign you all up as members today or expecting you to start a brand new campaign on this issue. But however, you're very welcome to do both of those things. So come join SMACC. But there are also some less resource-intensive actions that you can take to make a difference for these animals. Number 1 is really very simple, which is educating your followers on this content, especially if it's related to the animal cruelty focus areas that your organization works on. So promote these 5 steps that were shared earlier, which is not to watch, not to share, not to comment, even put an emoji. So raise awareness amongst your followers and also your own network and also staff members. So this is our main tool at present, and we really want all of you to keep promoting this. And if your work involves direct interactions with animals, please be mindful of how your content is portrayed on social media, how your work is portrayed on social media. We do not want to unknowingly give the impression that wild animals in particular, or they are safe or they are keen to engage with us humans. And also please use the SMACC content, reports, and advice in your work. These materials are created by SMACC for every one of us to use, not just for SMACC and its members. So please do take them from our website or reach out to us as well. And when you raise awareness, just remember not to reveal the handle of the content creator, because we don't want to unknowingly channel traffic to such content as well. And it's very exciting that SMACC will be launching a new NGO toolkit at the end of this month in March. So please do look out for the information on SMACC's website. And importantly, like what it was discussed earlier, is that if opportunities arise in your work area to secure legislative changes, law changes related to online safety or expanding animal welfare laws, please consider making a submission calling for animals to be protected from online abuse. This is something SMACC can definitely help with. And also report problematic content you find online to to the platforms and also to SMACC, because it's very important that this information gets fed into SMACC's main database, and it will be used in all of the work that SMACC does, and it will allow us to understand the trends based on the data analysis and also how content is moderated by these online platforms. And also definitely liaise with SMACC to join the conversation with these online platforms as well. And over to you, Amanda.
Okay, thank you so much, Anbu and Nicola and also Winaya. So this is the end of the presentation, and I just want to say that it is important that SMACC exists to bring together organizations working on this issue to strengthen our effort and our results for animals. Having a join-up approach, no matter where in the world you are based, means we can have a clear call to action for the platforms, government, and social media users. So that is why we encourage all organizations to utilize SMACC's resources and information and to reach out to us whenever you need. SMACC is not here to replace your effort, but to support them and elevate them however we can. And now we are going to do our panel discussion, and we're still open for question. If anyone have question, please type it in the chat room. So, okay. Okay, we have some question, or just because we already do this presentation, like this is like the most exciting things that SMACC do, and people always excited like asking question, and this is few question that mostly people ask. I will, some of it is like, wait a minute. Okay. One question is it possible to locate and prosecute those who are carrying out acts of cruelty on social media? I think Taiwan SPCA have like the experience of catching, like in doing investigation on animal certification, Connie?
Yes. Well, the first step, which is always, well, usually very difficult, like I mentioned, is to determine like where it is happening, where the abuse is happening. So if you can find the city, that would be the best. The example in Taiwan would be that our laws actually, if you disseminate severe cruelty or abuse on animals, if you disseminate that on social media or publicly, it's actually considered a criminal offense. So the police will get involved. But the difficulty here in Taiwan and most likely in other countries with us is with Meta. Meta does not work with government or law enforcement on cases involving animal cruelty. And there are no current laws that actually require them to do so. So what happens is when we do receive reports, we end up doing a lot of the investigative work. So we try to find more information on the perpetrator. We try to find where it's happening. And then we pass along that information to police. But we are trying to push for an amendment in the Animal Protection Act to change this. So we hope that it will require these third-party platforms to have to comply with law enforcement. So that is the future goal.
That sounds really interesting, and for the life experience of catching the criminal. So yeah, we have the next question is from which? From Synergia Animal. As an individual, what can I say to educate my older relative who share this type of content with me, thinking that I would enjoy it? So do you have any experience talking to like older relative about this issue? I think anyone can answer this. Please, Anbu.
I can go first because I mentioned earlier that my family members used to share. It took a while, and I think it's such an important question because we want to practice our advocacy skills within our home first. And it's important to explain with patience on the details. And it's great that SMACC has a lot of visual resources as well to show why it is wrong, and explain to them that this is not real. And the fact that they're actually sharing with us means that they care about these animals as well, and they care about something that we all work on. So it's a good opportunity to, turn that into an educational opportunity to talk to them. So I do share about these issues in my own family, relatives, group chat. So increasingly, the type of content they share has actually come down. So I wish to believe that it has worked to some extent. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important to share this issue into our closest surrounding, and then they will share to others. So, because I see in the presentation you're talking about fake rescue, I'm wondering, like, how do you differentiate between a real and a fake rescue, especially for like a public who doesn't know like what's going on? Maybe Nicola or Winaya can answer these questions.
Yes, thank you. So we get this question a lot of the time, and it's actually the focus of a new spotlight report that we're producing this year. So we have our own sort of parameters or indicators around how we identify fake rescue, but part of this work is that we want to produce a more definitive, if possible, list for the public and others to be able to identify fake rescue. We do have a page on our website that has a lot of these indicators already, so hopefully you can find that useful. But some of the things that we look for is basically sort of taking a step back and looking at the wider account that is posting this video. And often you'll find that these pages have multiple videos of the same type, so lots and lots of rescue, similar to the screen that you saw of the page pretending to be an animal rescue. Just lots and lots of videos. But yet there's very little follow-up on what happens to the animals and information about who is this rescuer, where do the animals go, are they a registered organization, do they have stories about what happens to the animals in the end, and you might even find that some of the animals look like the same, so we sometimes see the same individual used in multiple videos. There's also some kind of technical features that can help. So often the content can be the person's filming and they're sort of stood there for quite a long time before they actually move in and assist the animal, which is not likely in a real emergency rescue situation. The animal's care and needs should come first before just standing there and capturing it. But also you might see that it's been filmed from multiple angles. There's quite a lot of editing. But then conversely to that, we do see some content where this standing and filming it just happens for, say, 10 minutes solid, and no genuine animal welfare or rescuer would do that, would stand and watch the animal suffering in that way. I'm trying to think of other indicators now. Winaya, you're always welcome to chop in because I know you've been working on this a lot. But yeah, I think also like the legitimacy of the page and whoever's behind it is a real big one for us.
I think
Thank you so much, Nicola. Do you want to add something, Winaya? I'm so sorry.
not really adding, but just want to say that Nicola has added all of this information perfectly. What I want to clarify is that to identify fake rescue is quite difficult, and I do want people to understand that it takes quite a lot of analyzing to really know, especially for people who doesn't have any background on animals. I do have an experience with my own parents that they find it quite difficult to really understand why this is cruelty, why the rescue is actually abuse. And I guess I think it needs practice as well, but if you understand, how do I say this? If you can analyze it often, then you'll figure it out what fake rescue is. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Winaya. Connie, you're next.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. Like what Nicola said, I think there are always some clues that you could look for, like in the videos. I think as we should be like a thoughtful viewer, I think by asking ourselves some certain questions. For example, you know, would the animal be in this situation like normally, like would they be likely be in that situation or environment? For example, I know there's a channel where they have dozens of videos showing like dogs and cats with hundreds of ticks on its face, and then they're teaching people how to remove the ticks. But normally, you know, that wouldn't happen in a normal situation. Like we do like hundreds of rescues, and rarely, like we never come across a dog or a cat with hundreds of ticks on its face, and not to mention like they have dozens of videos showing this. So that would be something quite strange. Another situation would be it happens in Taiwan here. Unfortunately, there are NGOs who actually fundraise using rescue videos, but they don't actually help the animals. So we always ask supporters to do your due diligence, you know, and to double check if you ever want to support a charity that you see online. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Connie. So yeah, I think the biggest what is it, like a sign of a fake rescue is usually like you can't really connect with the content uploader, and also you don't know that the animal is safe or not. There's no follow-up for that. So yeah, that's really tricky, but yeah, you can go to SMACC website. There is like a lot of lists on how to identify a fake rescue. Okay, so there is a next question from Tu Hang Tran. So is there a social media platform that implement animal cruelty ban? Can you share the progress or effort to pursuing the platforms to act? I guess Acres also have the experience on it. Nicola also. Connie, of course. So yeah.
Yeah, I can start on this. No, there is no social media platform that has banned all animal cruelty for many reasons. One, because it's defining what content would come under animal cruelty, and you know, there's lots of lines that are drawn by different people, different groups of society around what is cruelty and what isn't. SMACC generally has quite a wide capture of what we say is animal cruelty, because we believe it is, because there's evidence, because our members work on these issues, and we want to have as robust a response from the platforms as possible with their new policies. What we find is that the platforms have obviously quite different priorities to us as animal protectionists, and it feels as though it's going to be a slow piece by piece approach. So TikTok, for example, with their Animal Welfare Centre, I would say is the strongest outcome that we've had, that they're actually highlighting that animal cruelty content is an issue that needs to be addressed. Again, there's a lot more that can happen, but it's, you know, a lot of the platforms, their mention of animal cruelty is quite small. Some of them don't even have an animal cruelty category. So we're right at the beginning of this, and it is a difficult challenge to get the platforms to really prioritize this and give it the time, the resources to make the changes. There's also quite a pushback from them in that they want to be able to moderate content on scale. So, you know, which I think is reasonable, that they have to find ways that their moderators or their AI can clearly identify cruelty content, remove it, you know, across the huge worldwide, you know, space that is social media. So it is a big challenge. I don't want to sound too negative with that, because like I say, the work that happened with TikTok, I think, is very positive and is definitely they've been really engaging, and I think is the way that we're going to be able to move towards having a animal cruelty content prohibited or reduced on social media platforms. If we're talking about them themselves, the other approaches could be legislation, of course, that forces them to have to remove some of this content. Anyone else like to add to that?
Anyone else have the experience? Okay, Anbu.
I think to add on to what Nicola mentioned is on, we are very grateful and very excited that TikTok is quite engaged in this topic with SMACC, and they have even visited our rescue center. So it's good to keep that engagement going and the commitment going. However, for others, I think the content moderation has been something that has not been delivered at different levels. Even for very obvious illegal content like illegal wildlife trade. So, and often the challenge, like what Connie was sharing, when we investigate, the transaction has already happened, which means within a few hours, the animal gets sold already. So there is no way that we can track back who purchased the animal, who has the animal in possession. So the removal, once it gets reported, is something, I think it's a huge challenge, even though the community standards clearly state that it is not allowed, or graphic content, or certain definitions that is not allowed. So I believe there is there's already efforts that Nicola earlier shared about regulation. In my personal opinion, I think that is something that needs to progress in terms of moderating at earlier level to ensure that they have algorithms in place to ensure such cruelty content does not go up. And also there are measures that are stipulated by the law. If the platform do not comply to those regulations, what will be the consequences?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes,
if I
please.
could add to that, yeah, I do also agree. I think legislation is so important. I think it's something that we should really be pushing in every country. I mean, I find it very, it's just horrible that third-party platforms don't seem to think it's their responsibility or they're at fault. Something to share from Taiwan, the government here is looking to amend our Animal Protection Act, which will require the social media platforms to take down content involving the illegal sale of pets, and also provide information to the government. So they're putting the responsibility on the platforms. But of course, we want them to expand the scope of this. But for, this is a great opportunity, I think, for us to push something through. We believe they should be responsible for more than that, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And I do want to mention the UK online safety bill, right? Which I think is so important because it will set precedents. Because as we know, internet is borderless. So if one country starts to regulate more diligently, then I believe there will be a snowball effect. So yeah, I think legislation is something we should be all be working on.
Yeah, and I mean, that's something that we touch on in the presentation. Thanks for mentioning it, Connie, because I was going to go back to that, the Online Safety Act in the UK. Basically, this was a piece of legislation that was proposed around protecting vulnerable people and young people using online spaces, largely social media platforms. And there was a lot of lobbying done by advocates in the country and elsewhere to have animal cruelty content included on the in the bill. And at first there was quite a lot of reluctance from lawmakers. We did manage to have things read out in Parliament. They used SMACC's data, which we were so pleased, because again, that's from our volunteers, it's from members of the public, just to show that it had some real value. and was used in a situation like that. And unfortunately, it seems like it took the release of the BBC documentary, which focused on monkey torture content, to really capture the lawmakers on this issue. And it did mean that they've added animal cruelty content to the bill now. And we're going through the consultation process at the moment around defining what is animal cruelty, what will be prohibited, what is damaging. And what's been really important in this conversation, yes, the monkey torture and the examples that we were providing were quite, shocking, some of them extremely graphic, but it was also about the user's experience. It wasn't just about what was happening to the animals. In fact, the whole piece of legislation was about the impact on children and vulnerable adults. So that became a really important part for us to include in that conversation. So if there is anyone, out there who's looking to work on legislation in their country, we are planning to bring together, have a working group on this to share some of the resources that we have and the approach around the online safety bill in the UK. And we really want to, another one of our long-term projects is around looking at that link on the impact on children of viewing animal cruelty, and because we know that that's really valuable in tackling this issue, especially with lawmakers.
Okay, Anbu, you can go ahead.
I just want to add on to one of the comments in the chat as well, that we discussed it earlier, but it's so important that while the platforms are being engaged on the ground when we do education work, we can also reduce the demand for such videos, because this content is created mainly for monetization value and the commercial value and the money that content creators get. And that is something that only people here who are attending have the power to change when we raise the awareness. If people don't give the views, the likes, the comments, and shares, the value of such content will automatically go down. Yeah. And I just want to share from what ACRES does. It's because it's so easy. SMACC has made it so easy to use the materials. So we have a deck of slides for our human education programs. We have inserted the 5 points that are shared by SMACC. We can just take it and insert into our slides and start the discussion. We also use a couple of videos that showcase hidden forms of cruelty, and we ask a critical thinking question to our audience. What do you think is happening here? Why is this bad or good? So we actually ask them to analyze based on the Ask Yourself section on SMACC. So that's pretty helpful. We make it into a discussion instead of a very preachy session of don't do this part. And we also mention this when there are opportunities. For example, it was World Wildlife Day, day before yesterday. So we had a radio interview last night. We spoke about online animal cruelty, because it's so easy for people to pick it up and act on it. It is not a big leap for them, individual members of public, to do it. And of course, adding some information on the website as well.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anbu and Nicola, and also Connie. I believe that working, contacting social media is a challenge, but I believe that the SMACC is like the start of it, and by working together with all the NGOs is, yeah, it's a long way to go, but it's starting. So yeah, and we are also like, thank you for all the volunteers that help us, creating this report. We can't really publish a report if we didn't have volunteers, and also for all the organizations that share the same vision to combat the animal cruelty content by using our resource or producing other resource, but with the same vision. As long as we have the same vision, that's really great, and we are really thankful for it. So yeah, maybe last question, because I believe that we have a lot of participants that came from NGO, and sometimes they got like question, or some people just like reporting the animal cruelty content to them, like, can you please rescue this animal, that kind of thing. So do you have any advice on that NGO on how to respond to that kind of request from the audience?
Yeah, I'm going to jump in again first here, just because SMACC does receive a lot of these emails and contact from the public. And to be honest, it is quite tricky because people are very passionate, and some people spend a lot of time finding out as much as they can about, you know, the pages, maybe, you know, identifying the same animals being used. And one of our challenges as SMACC is obviously we are a facilitator. So we bring together organizations working on this. We are not the ones that will be able to go and investigate or rescue animals. So we could pass that on to our members, but we also need to be mindful that organizations that we are in contact with do a lot of work already. And what we try to do is only pass on information that we think may have some potential to go somewhere. But we are actually looking at that this year around what is it that organizations would need that would actually be useful. And we need to really come up with ways of managing the expectation of the public who send us this information as well. We do have some standard responses that, you know, we are not a rescue organization, and it is extremely rare, unfortunately, that we, you know, some screenshots collected from Facebook will lead to animals being rescued. You know, we all, as working in this sector, we all know that that's really difficult, even when there is evidence. So yeah, that is some work that we need to continue to do. Connie and Amber, if you've got anything to add.
Well, what we ask the public to do is we have an online reporting form that they fill out. So we don't usually ask them to do the investigative work, although some members of the public, they're very enthusiastic about helping. But what we usually do is we do it ourselves. Like we'll look at the link that they provide, and we try to look for clues in the videos. You know, sometimes you can catch some things from the images or videos. But again, it's usually very difficult to locate where the animal is or where it's happening. But we have had, you know, a couple successful situations where we were able to determine that it was not happening in Taiwan, that it was happening elsewhere, for example, in China. Or there was another situation where we were able to find which school the perpetrator went to. So yeah, but these are like extremely rare situations, I would say. But yeah, we usually ask our supporters, if you see anything that you're concerned about, to fill out our online form, and then we'll try to investigate. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Connie, for your answer, and Nicola also. So yeah, I think to end this session, I will just like give like a little bit of conclusion. So I believe that SMACC is like working with a lot of organizations, collaborate and sharing discussions about everything. And I believe that SMACC is also having resources that can be used with other people, everyone, public. So yeah, please go and check out our website, and please contact SMACC if you want to be like our member organization, and just asking question, any advice, you can also come to SMACC. So yeah, maybe that's all. Anyone want to add something like to end this beautiful session?
Yeah, I was just putting a note that our NGO toolkits, the first iteration of it anyway, will be on our website on the end of this month. Winaya has been working really hard on that, and it is free. It's hopeful over time we want to add more languages. So if there is some resources that you think would be great in a particular language, then get in touch and we can work together to produce those for you. And anything else that you think is useful. That, you know, we had feedback, like the great feedback that Andrew gave us about our resources already, and we just want to make it as easy and to find and use for organisations as possible. And you don't have to be a SMACC member. You know, being a SMACC member is great, but any little thing that you can do, public awareness is such a big part of that. So please help yourself.
Okay, maybe that's how we end this discussion. Thank you for everyone. And just like what Nicola said, do as little thing as possible, and that's already helping the animals. Thank you. Over to Laura.
Thank you, Amanda. And also thanks to Winaya, Connie, Nicola and Ambu for such an important session. I've personally worked for SMACC for 1.5 years, so I know just how much work goes into tackling this issue. And I think SMACC is a really great example of how an AfA working group gets together with organizations from all around the world to work together on really specific issues and achieve a lot. So that was really great to hear, a really great session. Thank you so much, everyone. So if you would like to leave feedback about this session or about AfA Connect in general with all the sessions we've had today, please head over to this form. We'll also email it to you right after the event ends. Feedback allows us to understand your needs for the series of online events and how we can improve and be of even more help for animal organizations. So please take a moment to fill in this short form. It should only take a few minutes of your time. So today was AfA Connect's very first event, and we'll be hosting 3 more this year. So we have a second day tomorrow. But if you also want to attend future AfA Connect sessions, we have the information on our website at asiaforanimals.com/connect. So we have some sessions in June, August, and November. This year, we also have some really exciting in-person events, such as Asia Farm Animal Day in Hanoi, Vietnam, between the 9th and the 11th of October. And we also have more regional events in the Philippines and India, and we'll soon share the dates with everyone once we have them. Myself and the AfA team, we really hope to see many of you at these events. If you have previously attended AfA conferences or Asia Farm Animal Day last year in 2023, or if you have previously attended FAC's regional events, you just know how valuable these in-person events are and how crucial they are overall to the movement for all of us to continue our efforts to collaborate and work together, all in the spirit of AfA's main goal, to unite our voices for the animals of Asia. And speaking of voices, we also have launched this year the AfA podcast. So if you haven't already, I would really recommend checking it out. The episodes we have really so far are really brilliant. And of course, I am completely unbiased, but we have guest speakers from all around the world sharing their experiences and updates. So this concludes our event today. Thank you everyone for participating to the event. Thank you for the speakers. Thank you for the moderators and the whole AfA team. There's a lot of technical help that is going on behind the scenes. We'll be back tomorrow for our second day of AfA Connect. So goodbye, and we'll see you tomorrow.